Hello, it is Affordable Friday, and today I'm going to be sharing a summer makeup bag, some makeup bag swaps to make for this season. I'm wearing most of these on my face today. I went with a very minimal summery look, no foundation. I applied some demo clips of these products. These are the products, if you want to switch it up a bit for summer, opt for something maybe a little bit more glowy or balmy. I have recommendations for you, and I tried to be particular in this video and not repeat too many of the drugstore favorites that I talk about all the time. So I included a lot of new ones that you don't hear me talk about as much. Okay, so for summer, the most important thing is obviously going to be an SPF. And I will say, I do have a harder time finding a great sunscreen at the drugstore. And this one is technically available at Sephora, but it's a drugstore price point. You know, it's an affordable sunscreen. So I wanted to mention it. It is the Inkey List Polyglutamic Acid Dewy Sunscreen SPF 30. This is pretty new. The name is a lie though. This is not a dewy sunscreen. I would actually describe the finish of this to be relatively matte. But I kind of like that because I feel like a lot of sunscreens tend to sit very greasy on the skin, whereas this one I would say sinks in more like a lotion, just not necessarily one that has that dewy finish to it. This is a chemical SPF. Personally, I don't experience a white cast with this, but I do have fair skin, so take that into account. But I have been loving this. It has been one of my favorites just in general lately, but definitely a favorite at a drugstore price point. I did not include any foundation, concealer, powder, partially because I just did a video for last Affordable Friday last week where I shared my number one product in every category. So if you want to hear those, I will have that linked. But I really wanted to focus on products that feel like summer to me. And in the summer, I'm thinking less about the complexion and the base because like I said, today I'm not even wearing foundation. I feel like I skip foundation a good amount in the summer because it's so hot. But where I'm actually really focusing is on the cheeks. So we're going to start with, wait for it, a highlight. Surprising maybe because I'm not super into highlights these days, but this one I think is so perfect for the summer months. This is from Flower Beauty. It is their Day Glow Highlighting Glaze, and this applies so much more like a balm than it does a highlight. It's a cream, but it doesn't necessarily have much of a base to it. I would almost say it's sheer on the skin with minimal pigment, and you're more so getting this really reflective, not even reflective, but this dewy glow. It almost looks like maybe you're just a little sweaty, maybe it's warm out and you're glowing a little bit. That's what this does. It gives you that really summery, dewy effect. Now, when I think of summer cheeks, I think of sunburnt blush. And surprisingly, I feel like the sunburnt effect can be challenging to achieve without just looking like you have so much blush right here. And I think the key to really achieving that natural look is choosing a blush that has a red base to it. And I do see some people recommending a peachier blush to do the sunburnt technique with, but sometimes I find you have to layer that up a lot. It starts to look a little bit weird, you just have this weird orange section. I think red blush is a little bit more ideal for that. So I have two recommendations. One is a cream option, and this is from Milani. This is the Cheek Kiss Cream Blush in the shade Coral Kiss. Now, I actually just did 2 Affordable Fridays ago. I'll have that one linked down below, but I did the best and worst blushes at the drugstore, so I swatched every blush I own next to one another, gave comparisons, and I talked about both of these in there. And this one, it is actually such a pigmented formulation, but it shears out really beautifully if you want something a little bit less bold. So because of that, I could see this working for such a range of skin tones because it's pretty adaptable in terms of the level of pigmentation. I also find that it gives this really dewy finish that, especially if you're going to pair these two together, they would kind of complement one another. And it's a pretty easy application. I went with a sponge today, but I also think it applies beautifully with a brush or your fingers. Anything really. This is a quick, simple look. But another sunburnt blush tone I wanted to shout out is this one from the Ulta Beauty collection. This is their mineral blush in the shade Southern Sunset. So this I like wearing as kind of a step 2. I'll do a little bit of blush throughout the cheeks as usual, and then take, where did I put it? I just had it. More of a dense brush to target and pick it up and then kind of apply it right in this area under the eyes where the sun would kind of fall down and hit. And that's where I think you can really mimic that freshly in the sun, a little glowy, a little bit red type of look that I think is beautiful year-round, but I especially am trying to emulate in the summer months. Now, I didn't want to mention the Makeup Revolution Cream Bronzer because you already know how much I love it, but an alternative bronzer recommendation I wanted to share that I think is so appropriate in the summer is going to be this one from Flower Beauty. This is their Heat Wave Luminous Bronzer. This is a baked formulation similar to something like an Hourglass Ambient Lighting bronzer, but this is also similar to like the Milani baked bronzer, but this is way better in my opinion. It has so much less sparkle to it and it just looks a lot better on the cheeks. And the beautiful thing about baked products like this is that they're incredibly flattering on the skin because they're not going to emphasize texture the same way a cream, liquid, or even some powders can. The baked formula is just so finely milled and lightweight. It almost smooths over things, blurs them out. So if you're worried about any texture, any fine lines, anything on your skin, like this is going to kind of diffuse it while still providing some glow because it is a bit of a glowy product. This tone also has a lot of warmth to it without being like straight up orange. I just think it's so beautiful. I also like to wear it on my chest sometimes as well. Okay, brows. I don't necessarily think of brows as like, oh, this is a summer brow category, but there is a certain makeup look that I find myself doing in the summer, and this is the brow product that lends itself well to that application. So often in the summer, my face is looking like this, where I'm like, okay, no foundation on, just a little bit of blush, just a little bit of this and that. And then the brows, sometimes you just want a simple, like slicked up brow. That's where this comes in. This is from Milani. It is their Stay Put Liquid Brow Wax. Now, this I would only recommend if you're trying to achieve that kind of like slicked back, soap brow, laminated brow look. I don't think this formulation works well if it's just like the last step in your brow routine to add some hold. I think this really only works if you're choosing it as like step one to start building the brow from there. But in terms of a nice hold, but not too stiff, I think this is a perfect wax for that. I think it just gives me a really great shape to my brow without like turning your head sideways and seeing them laminated to your face. You know what I mean? Like some products that do this do a little too much. This I think is like the perfect middle point of your brow still being kind of soft and touchable, but you get that hold. Okay. A pause on makeup to share a fragrance recommendation for the summer. This is from Pacifica. This retails for $22, and I've talked about this scent before, but this is one I've been reaching for so much more frequently these days as it starts to feel more like summer. This is their Neon Moon scent. This retails for $22. And it is definitely inspired by Le Labo 33. So if you're a fan of that scent, you will probably love this. I won't say it's an exact dupe because it doesn't have quite the complexity that that fragrance has, but this definitely gives you that vibe. So if you're after that, you like that scent profile, I think this does a really good job kind of emulating that without being like the most exact dupe ever, and it's delicious. I'll have the notes on the screen. Also, I find this to be so long wearing. It's weird though because I have a few other fragrances from Pacifica and they're not all that long wearing, but this one stays really well for me. So I'm not really sure what the difference is, but this one lasts for me all day. Okay, for the eyes. I feel like I scale back a little bit in the summer for the most part. I'm doing pretty simple eye looks, especially when it's like a bazillion degrees and I just want something simple. So eyeshadow sticks, I feel like are the way to go. Any sort of like one and done shadow like this, I think very convenient for summer. But let's talk about these from Hard Candy. These are their eye def markers. That's what they call them. I have two shades and I'm wearing both of them. I have Bubbly and Cold Brew. And these are a very beautiful, a little bit more subdued, kind of subtle shimmer on the lid. I would say they remind me of like a luxury shadow in that way because they're not like super foiled or super in your face. They're actually just very understated, but they look beautiful on the skin. Like it's the most perfect shimmer, kind of like satin finish to it, where on their own they're very subtle, but if you wanted to, you could even use this as a base and then pack a shimmer on top if you wanted to take it like really to the next level. I like wearing both of these together. So I take Bubbly, which is more of the champagne tone, and apply it on my lid. And then I take Cold Brew, which is more of this bronze, and smudge that out near the lash line. And then if I want to do like something a little bit more, I will add some bronzer into the crease and then you're done. but I think a cream shadow like this is really convenient in the summer months. A shadow stick, I feel like just makes it so much more effortless. So love these. I'm not normally a big setting spray person, but in the summer, like that's the difference for me. So this is the e.l.f. Stay All Night Microfine, almost dropped it, Microfine Setting Mist. This is a dupe for the Urban Decay All Nighter. Such a similar formula. And again, I don't tend to reach for a setting spray year round, but in the summer, if I'm gonna have a long day, if it's hot out, if I know I'm gonna be sweating, if I'm like, have a whole summer day of activities going here, there, I will be reaching for a setting spray on those days. And this is the one I'm gravitating to when I'm not grabbing my all-nighter. But like I said, they're basically dupes. Okay, so first of all, there's like a little ball at the bottom of this, so it's very satisfying to shake up. It has a great mist to it, like very fine, just like the name would suggest. And this actually does lock your makeup into place. So I would say if you're having a super long day and you want a drugstore combo to lock it in, start with the e.l.f. Hydro Grip, which, you know, I already love. We talk about that a lot. I didn't want to include that today because I was like, we talk about it all the time. But start with that. Do the rest of your makeup, lock it in with this, and that will not go anywhere. Your makeup will not be budging. Okay, on my lips in the summer, which, by the way, can you tell I just put on a lip balm over top of what I had on? Because I stopped filming for a second, and then I was looking at my lips. I was like, girl, your lips are dry. So we put a lip balm over top of the stain that I'm wearing. Okay, so let's talk about lip stains. That's what I love wearing in the summer. I think lip stains are beautiful year-round, but there is something so summery about just like a juicy cherry red lip. So 2 recommendations at the drugstore. I do feel like lip stains are on the rise. A lot more brands are doing them, but these are the best ones in my opinion. So I opted for 2 very different formulations. The first one to mention is from the Ulta Beauty collection. This is their Weightless Water Stain. I talk about this a lot. It's actually what I have on today. This is very similar to like a Benetint in terms of the formulation. It's definitely very watery, like the name suggests. It applies very sheer, but with a little bit of that red pigment. The stain that it leaves behind is beautiful, but it definitely applies a little bit more sheer, not like in your face red, like it's very much just a stain. If you're looking for a lip stain that's going to initially apply a little bit more like a lipstick and eventually wear into that long wearing option, I would recommend this one from Flower Beauty, and this is almost an exact dupe to the Fenty lip stain, but this is their Bitten lip stain formula. I have mine in the shade Saucy, and this definitely applies a lot more pigmented. It's like a liquefied lipstick that you put on, and at first it's gonna look glossy and very like vinyl-esque almost, but you can either tap it off after a few minutes to reveal the stain, or just let it naturally wear away, and then a few hours later you'll have that red pigment left behind. I find that both of these offer really beautiful longevity, but the difference is like the initial application. This one applies right away, like that watery texture, but this one you're going to get more of a lipstick look at first, and then it will fade into the stain. So it's going to depend on what you're after. I love both. I used almost all of these, like I said, to achieve this super simple, like no makeup, no foundation look that I'm wearing right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. These are some of my favorites for summer. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on Monday for my next one. Bye.